Now, our next topic of discussion would be tuples. Now, tuples are very similar to list. The only difference is that tuples are immutable in nature, which means we cannot change the values of tuple once it is set. Now, in a list, you can always go ahead and change the elements once you set a list, but tuples doesn't allow you to alter the values. Now, let us see how do you create an empty tuple. So, tuples. So tuples are represented by the round brackets. So this is how we create an empty tuple. So now, if you are interested in creating a tuple with only numbers in it. So my number tuple equal to 12.2, 100, and 12. So I'm going to give the print statement for both. You have the number tuple. Now, if you want to have a tuple with a mixture of numericals and characters, you can always go ahead and define it. So, my mixed tuple, so let's say x and y. I'm going to define 100 some numbers and one more string h. I'm going to print it. Tuple. Here we have it. You can add different types of data types in a tuple. So you can also create a complex nested tuple. So tuple can also be nested in nature. So my nested tuple equals to, so first I'll write hello and then give an integer. And then I'm going to give another tuple inside it where some strings, a few more integers, and I'll add a list. Same and integer. So int my next tuple. Sorry. So coming to defining a tuple. So if when I define a tuple, let's say that is it equal to and so let me see the type of a tuple. Type of this tuple, and it says it is string, and it's not giving the class as tuple. So does it mean that if I only enter parentheses and I can create tuple? So that's no, right? So there got to be something more while defining the tuple. So you can see in the output here that it's showing as a string and not a tuple. So what do you think went wrong here? So by syntax standard, you need to put a comma to depict that it is a tuple. So while defining the tuple, what you have to do is you have to put a comma here to depict that it is a tuple. Now let me print it once again after running this. So now it shows that the class is tuple. So they put a comma at the end to denote that it is a tuple. So the parenthesis is actually optional. The comma makes more sense. So if I remove the parenthesis, let's say that I remove this parenthesis and I print the type. It's once again says that it is a tuple. So the comma is important and brackets are optional, but it's always better to start defining a tuple with bracket because it makes your code more readable. So if you have only one element in a tuple, so please make sure that you put brackets at the end while defining it, and please make sure that you put a comma at the end while defining it. And brackets are optional, but you define the tuple with brackets so that it makes it more readable. So let us move on to accessing the elements in a tuple. So I have a tuple here with four names in it, and accessing the elements in a tuple is very is similar to accessing the elements in a list. So what I do is, let me access the fourth element. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the third element and we don't have. So if I want to access the third element, what I do is, I mean, if I want to access the fourth element, you have to give the index as 3 because the index starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the fourth element, and uh, when I give the index as 3, I get the fourth element. Now, if I want to print the last element in a tuple, you can use negative indexing. Let's say that if I want to print just like the list indexing starts with the 0 from the beginning, and it goes on like 0, 1, 2, 3, and from the back it starts from -1. So -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, so if I want to access the last element from the tuple, so either I can give it as 3, or if I want, I can give it as -1, and I'll get the last element. Now, how do you access the elements in a nested tuple? It is also very simple. I have a nested tuple here where the names Rakesh, Roshni, and Shiran are in a tuple inside a tuple. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to start with the tuple, and this is the zeroth element, and this is the first element. This whole tuple is the first element. So I want to access the first element, and I'm going to do indexing on the first element that I want to access 0, 1, 2. I want to access Shiran name. So this will be 0, this will be 1, and this will be 2. So I'm going to define one more square bracket here and mention 2. So I access the name Shiran. So this is how you access the elements from a nested tuple. Now let us see how do you access the elements from a range of I mean, how do you access range of elements using slicing? So I have a tuple here with a few integers. So if I want to print, let's say my tuple of, so it is similar to list. So what I will do is 0, 1, 2. I'll want to print all the elements from 0 to 5. So what I can do is I'll start from 0, 1. If I want to print all the elements, so what I have to do is I can just give the print statement followed and define and request for the tuple to be printed. Now if I want to access elements, let's say from two, so I mean the third element, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, and I want to print till 4 and till 5. So if I what I have to do is I have to start from 2, and let's say I'll give till 5. So I get second element. Zero. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yes, from 12 to 15. So this is the zeroth element, first element, second element, starts from second element, third element, and fourth element. So because this is inclusive and this is exclusive, if I define 6 here, then I can get 0, 1, second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element, and sixth element. Now, if I want to print from using negative indexing, let's say that, so as I told earlier, while accessing the elements from the negative side, so it starts from -1. So this will be -1, this will be -2, this will be -3. If I want to access this element, I can define it as -3 and run the code. So I get the element 13. But if I want to access all the elements like from 13 to all the way to the end, so I can define -3 followed by a colon. So, and I did not define any element, any indexing number after colon. So it will take all the elements all the way to the end. So alternatively, if you want to print all the elements in the tuple, so what you can do is can just define a square bracket and put a colon. It will take print all the elements. Now, if you want to alter an element in tuple, it is not possible as tuple is immutable in nature. But if a tuple has an element which is mutable in nature, let's say you have a nested tuple and inside the nest you have a list. So list by its core definition is mutable in nature. So if you have an element which is mutable in nature, you can go ahead and change the particular element. So by default, if you have a list inside the tuple, you can go ahead and change the data inside the list. So let's see with an example. I have a tuple here. My tuple equal to I have a few elements and also a nest list inside the tuple. Now, if I want to, let's say 0, 1, 0, if I want to change the element located in first location, so my tuple of 1, let's say I want to replace it with x. So this will throw an error that says that tuple update does not support item assignment, because once you define a tuple, they are immutable, you cannot change them. But since lists are mutable and I have a list inside this tuple, so what I can do is like so what I can do is I can change the modify the values inside this list. So first, in order to do that, let us first access the elements. How do I do that? Let's say my tuple, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is in the fifth location. So 4, and let's say that 0, 1, let's say I want to replace this 77, that is 0, 1, 2 with, let's say, Nokia. And print my tuple. See, it got replaced. So whenever you are accessing a nested tuple, and if there is a mutable element inside the nested tuple, only then you can modify the elements. But if you straight away try to replace any element inside that tuple, you cannot chain them. So because tuple is mutable in nature and it throws an error. So just to understand a little deeper on this part, what I can do is before I modify my tuple, I'm going to show you if the ID of the variable gets modified. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print ID of I'll access the memory location before modifying the tuple. So in the first line, I have defined the tuple, and the second line, I am trying to access the memory location of this tuple. In the third line, I have actually modified the list inside the tuple, and in the fourth line, once again, I will access the memory location, and let's see if there is any change. So you see that the memory location has not changed, and by this you can understand that the tuple has actually been modified. Now let us try to understand how do we concatenate two tuples. So what I'll do is I'm going to take first tuple, that is 11, 22, 33, and I'm going to add another tuple, that is 44, 55, and 66. So let us see if it actually works by printing it. You see that it gets concatenated into my tuple and all the values get stored. Now if you want an element to repeat multiple times, let's say that, so how do we get it? So we'll define a list that, define a tuple. So let's say that I need the word Python to be repeated 4 times, and let me print it up to, I define a space here, I get spaces, and let us see the type of it. Process string. So what went wrong? As I told earlier, you have to define the tuple with a comma. Now it says that it's a tuple. So you can try out this permutation combination of adding elements. You can change or add two tuples. You might want to play around with the address of the tuple to see if you change the values in the tuple, what happens to the memory address. So playing with these questions and understanding the behavior gives you clarity on what tuples are. Now let us move on to deleting from a tuple. So let us see if see how to delete the element from a tuple. So I'm going to define a tuple. Let's say it's a mixed tuple with names Python 45 and 3 and set 34. Okay. And I use just like list. I use the del command, del my tuple. So let us find out if it has really deleted. I'll try to print it. So it throws an error saying it's not defined. That means it has deleted. Now, if you want to delete individual elements in a tuple, you cannot do the same. Let's say that if I want to delete my tuple of, let's say 3, so you can't delete the tuple. So you have to delete the whole tuple. Because tuples are immutable nature, you cannot modify the elements inside the tuple. Now let us see how to count the occurrences of an element in a tuple. Now, if I want to see the occurrence of a name, let's say that I have this tuple, and let's say I want to see the occurrence of the name Suchit in the tuple. How do I do that? How do I do that? That is, if there is a word which is repeated multiple times, there is a method called as count to check the uh, number of times it is repeated. So what I do is, just like in list, after you put a dot, you can give a tab and see all the available functions. So here, what I can do is I can use the method count, and I'm going to check the string. It says that it has, so the word Suchit is present twice inside the tuple. Now, if you want to get the index of a particular item, basically the first occurrence of any particular item, what you can do is you can use the method called index. So I have the same tuple here, and what I'm going to do is I want to access tuple dot index of, let's say, what is the index value for the uh, element 11. So it says that the index location is 6. Let's see if it is true. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is true. Let us check for one more. Let us print the element at index 6. It throws an error because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because since you are actually trying to understand the index location here for the particular element, now you can see that the number 6 is not present in the tuple. So that's why it is throwing an error saying that the element x is not in the tuple. Let us move on to checking the membership in a tuple. Similar to list, we can use the membership operator in keyword and not in keyword in a tuple. So I have a tuple here. I'm going to use the same tuple from the previous example. So what I can do is I can use the in operator. Let's say 244 in my tuple. So basically, I want to understand if the number 244 is inside the tuple, so it should give an output of true or false. It says that true, yes, the number 244 is present in the tuple. So similarly, if I can check one more example, let's say instead of 244, I'm going to ask for 10. In tuple, it says false. Or if I say that it's not in my tuple, it says true because 10 is not present in my tuple. Now let's see some more built-in functions in a tuple. So first thing is to understand the length of a tuple. So what do I do is you can directly use the len keyword. So len keyword, which we have previously learned. So it says that the length of the tuple is 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means total there are 8 elements inside the tuple. Let us move on for to understand sorting. So if you want to sort a tuple, just to be careful that you cannot sort a tuple that has mixed data types. So let's say that if I have a tuple with mixed data types, and I use the sort function. So instead of my tuple, it throws an error saying since there are strings inside the tuple, it gives this error because there are strings in it. So you cannot use the sorting function in your tuple with mixed data types. So let's say that we have a tuple with all the numerical data types. So I'm going to store the sorted elements in another tuple. Let's say sorted tuple equal to sorted of my tuple, because by default tuples are immutable. So the new tuple will be stored in, I mean the new elements are, so from the sorted tuple will be stored in a different tuple. And let me print tuple, and let me also print my tuple just for comparison. Now you see the earlier tuple has been sorted, and the sorted tuple has stored in a list and not in a tuple. So you'll get a sorted list in return. Now, how do I find the largest number from a tuple? So what do I do is I have a tuple with only the numerical values. So we have a function called max, and I use number. So I get the number as 245, the largest number. Similarly, for the smallest number, we have a function called min, and it gives me the smallest number. And so finally, I want to see sum of all the elements inside the tuple. So for this also, your tuple must be numerical in nature, and here we have a number tuple which all containing all the numerical elements. So if I want to see the sum, what do I have to do? I'll use the sum function and define the tuple in which I want to see the sum. So I get the sum as 337.2. Now let us move on to the set. Sets are unordered collection of items. What that means is the elements are not arranged in any kind of order, uh, any kind of order in terms of ascending or descending. So every element of a set has to be unique. So you're not allowed to have duplicate values in a set. Now set is mutable. You can add or remove items in a set. Sets can be used to perform mathematical operations like union, intersection, etc. So let us see how do we create a set. So I'm going to define my set equal to, you define a set with the curly or flower brackets. So we're going to use some numbers like 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to print it. Let us also see the type of my set. And it says that class is set. Now, as I said that set is an unordered collection of unique elements. So that means by unique, the definition of unique means there are no duplicates. So let us try it out on an example. So I'm going to define the same set, that is 1, 2, 3, and some ones and some 4. Now I'm going to print my set. So you can see here, even though I have defined 3 ones in this set, the duplicates are not allowed. It has taken only one, I mean single element, and it has omitted all the other duplicates. So one gets, the balance extra one gets deleted. Alternatively, you can use set function to convert list to a set, or while defining the set, you can use it as a set function. So my set equal to set of 1 2 3 4. I mean, I had defined a list inside this function, and what I can do is I can print it, and let's see the type of my set. See that the type of my set is, I mean, set. Now, if you want to initialize in a set without any value, you can define it as something like this. That is my set equal to a set with nothing inside. And what I can do is, let me print and show it to you. And the type also. See that it's an empty set. It's a set. Now let's see if you can add an element to a set. So I have a set here that is A and 15. So we have an add function in the set. First, we print it, and then let us use the function add. So my set dot add. So let's say I want to add the number 5, and then what I'm going to do is I'll print my set. So initially I had only 2 elements. Later after that I added the element 5. So since set is an unordered collection, it will not, you cannot, it will not maintain the order what you want. It will maintain the order with respect to its basic principles. Now if you want to add a list of elements inside the set, you can use the update function. So the add function will only add a single element. So, and if you want to add multiple elements, what you can do is you can use the update function. So let's see how that works. So my set dot update, I'm calling the function, and inside the function I'm defining a list. Let's say to, let's add some string r and integer, and let's see how the set looks like. It has updated all the elements I requested. Now if you want to add a list and a, so before that, let us see if you can I mean access the elements through indexing. That is, let's say that print, let's say that I want to access the 0th element in a list, I mean in this set. So it throws an error saying set object does not support indexing. So you cannot do indexing in a set. Now if I want to add a list and a set to the original set, so once again I use the update function, my set dot update. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the list, and give a comma here, and I'll define one more set of 5, and then we'll see how it prints. So you see that in our original set we had A and 56, then we added a 5 element 5, Then we used update function to add some more list of elements. Now in the end, what we did was we added multiple lists, one list and multiple arrays, that is one list and set to my set, and you see that all the elements are present in my set. Now let's see how do you remove the elements from my set. For removing elements, we have multiple methods. So we have remove, we have discard, we have pop, we have clear. Now let's see them one by one. So I have a set of integers here, and before removing anything, let us print it. Okay. So now if I want to remove a particular element, let's say that I want to remove the element 13. So what I use is I use the command remove, that is raises key error if element is not contained. If it is present, it will remove. So dot remove, I'll give the element 13. After removing, I'll print my set. So you see that the element 13 has been removed. Now if the element doesn't exist, it's throw an error. Let's say that my set dot remove. Let's say that I want to remove the element 20. It throws an error saying 20 is not present in the set. Now let us try to understand the second function, that is discard function. So if I say that, so discard function works similar to remove function, but the only difference is that it doesn't raise us any error when the element is not present inside the set. So set or discard, let's say once again I want to remove the element 20, and it says that it will just run the whole block and it doesn't throw any error even though number 20 is not present in the set. So let us try to discard an element which is present in the set and print set once again. So now by using remove command, I have removed the element 13, and next using discard command, I removed number 14, and now in the last set you see that only 11, 12, 15 are present. Okay. So after that you have a function called as pop, which removes a random element from a list. So let us try to see how it works. So dot, you don't have to define anything because it's going to remove random elements. So print yes, let's you see that the element 11 has been removed. And if I want to now if you want to empty your entire set, you can use the function clear. So it deletes the entire set. Let's see that. Is here. So my set dot clear. Now if I want to print set, it will have the set. So you get an empty set, but the disadvantage is that the memory location is still present and it is just not holding any data. This is one disadvantage of the clear function. So ultimately, if you want to delete it, what you have to do is let us use the delete function. Delete set, and after that, let me try to print it. Now you see that Earlier using clear function, it has cleared all the elements present inside the set and returned them as a empty set. So if I land, the memory location was still present, but just not holding any data. But using delete function, I have deleted the whole set. So it gave me an error. Now let us see some set operation that is now this is more mathematical in nature. It is close to what we learned in a normal set theory. Like in sets, we have these Venn diagrams. So we have these Venn diagrams to understand the union in set, intersection in set, symmetric difference, subsets. So let us try to see one by one how do we do that in sets. Now I have two sets here that is with some element. Let us see the union of a set. So what you can do is you can use print my set one, and you can use the pipe function that is above your enter key, and set 2, it gives you the union. That means all the elements in both the sets get added to single element. The function. So alternatively, what you can do is you can use dot union, that is dot union of, so it gives the same output. Now let us try for set intersection. So I have set. Let us use the same two sets to understand how the intersection function works. So for union, you had used the pipe function. For intersection, you use the ampersand function. So, and alternatively, what you can use just like this, you can use the intersection function. So I'm just going to copy this. Intersection, and it gives the same error, same output. Now let us see the symmetric difference, that is set of elements that are in set 1 and set 2, that is except the ones that are common in both. So this is symmetric difference. So what I can do is we have a function called I will just show you here. Set 1, and you have a function called as this cap sign. You have to use the cap sign to get this symmetric difference. So these are the elements which are not present in either, which are very unique. Alternatively, what you can do is you can use the difference function which is inbuilt in the for the sets. So you have to use a symmetric difference. Symmetric difference of my set 2. Okay, so let us also try to understand the difference between two sets. That is, if I want to calculate, find out the difference between the two sets, what I can do is you can use the negative operator, or alternatively, I can use the difference function. difference function of my set. I get two elements. So the difference is nothing but what is going to do is it's going to subtract all the elements present in set 1. It's going to subtract all the elements that are present in set 1 minus the ones that are common in set 1 and set 2 and returns what are the remaining elements. Here you can see that 3, 4, 5, the elements 3, 4, 5 are common in both. So it has subtracted 3, 4, 5 and returned 1 and 2. Similarly, you can check for my set 2 different my set 1 also while you're trying to work out. Now let us try to understand the concept of subset. We have a function called as subset to check if the set is a subset of a bigger set. So I have a bigger set here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have a smaller set is a 1, no, this 2 and 4. So what I can do is I can use the print function. Let's say is set B or is set B uh, subset of set A. So okay, and what you're going to do is here you are here that is B dot is subset of A, and it says that it is true. Yes, this is the function used to find subset. It is subset. Similarly, we can try the other way around to understand if A is subset of B. That is, I can give it here. It was confused. So if A is subset of set, here what I have to do is I have to change A and it says that false. So here B is a subset of A, but A is not a subset of B. That's the reason why A is not a subset of B. It returned false. Now let us move on to the frozen set. Now these are different from regular sets in terms of in terms of frozen sets are mutable from sets. That is, they cannot be altered. Now tuples are immutable from form in immutable form of list. Similarly, frozen sets are immutable form of sets. Sets being mutable are unhashable, so they can't be. They can't be used in dictionary keys. On the other hand, frozen sets are hashable and they can be used in a dictionary. Now, hashed is a nice way in Python. Hash is a nice way in which Python searches for objects. Hashing functions are used to find out hash values for different objects. Based on hash value, it tries to find out a particular value in the memory. The data types supports there is that the data type support methods like your copy, difference, intersection, is this joint, is this subset, symmetric difference, and union. So you might want to try out these. But being immutable, it does not have the method add or remove elements. So let us try all these with a few examples. So I have two sets here. That is, my set one is a frozen set of. So defining the frozen set, you have to use the keyword frozen set. and inside the frozen set you have to give the list of elements. I have the two frozen set. Now if I want to add one more element, so let's say that my set dot add, if I want to use the add command, add, let's say I want to add the element line, it throws an error because frozen set object has no attribute and you cannot add any value to immutable set. Okay, so let's say that I want to access element, like let's see if I can do the indexing in frozen set. Let's say that if I want to access element 4, it says that frozen set does not support indexing. So if I want to find the union, so as I said earlier, union function, you can use the union function here for frozen sets. So if I want to find the union function, it is print checked one. Use the pipe function for union. And it gives me a frozen set. I mean frozen union set. Similarly, if I want to find the intersection, I can use the intersection function set, and I get the intersection. Alternatively, you can use the dot intersection method also. If I want to use the difference, what I can do is I can see the difference using the negative sign, and I get the difference, that is in a set of all the elements in set I mean a set of common elements in set 1 and 1 2, that is minus the present elements present only in set 1, that is the symmetry, I mean difference. So it shows everything from common values. Now 4 and 5 are common, it shows everything apart from 4 and from them. Okay, now let us move on to the dictionary. Now, the dictionary in Python is an unordered collection of items. It is basically compound data types. It has a key and a value pair separated by semicolon in between. So, how do I define a dictionary? That is my dictionary equal to, I define it with the fla bracket. So, if I want to create a dictionary with mixed caliber, that is my. So that let us make dictionary. I mean, let us enter dictionary and I get an empty dictionary. Now, if I want to create a dictionary with integer keys, I say integer key are equal to, let's say keys are integer. That means the keys are integer. I can give the values as score of marks 100, it's excellent. If I score the marks 50, it's fair. Then let me print it. So, so integers are my keys in this dictionary. Similarly, you can try out other values for your keys. You can have strings. I mean, you can have strings. You can have integers. You can have floats, etc. So, coming to the mixed keys, let me just show you how do we do dictionary with mixed keys. That is my mixed equal to, let's say, name, the name of Josh, then give 10, and let me give the value as a list, say sum, say sum, let's say star, and let me print it dictionary, and you have text dictionary. So the first element, first key value pair has only one element, whereas the second key has a list of values. Now, the most commonly used function to create a dictionary is the dict function. So, if my dictionary equal to dict of, this is the function we use to create the dictionary most commonly. Now, if I want to create a list of dictionary with the tuples, so I can use the this dict function to create the dictionary. That is, my dictionary equal to dict of, let's say. So I'm using a list of tuples here. So it's my first list. The second I go to and AB. The second list, and then I'm going to print it. So what it has done is it has converted the first element of the tuples has become the keys, and the second element in the tuple has become the values. So internally the function will convert the tuple into key and a value pair. Now let us coming to accessing the elements. So how do I have a dictionary here with the name, marks, and hobby. So how do I access? You, as I said earlier, you can only access the dictionary with using keys. So dictionary is a combination of key and value pair. So you should know the key in order to access the element. Let's say that if I want to access the name, I get the value stored in the key name. If I want to access, so the dictionary cannot have duplicate keys. So and values can be duplicate, but keys must be unique. Now, if some keys are not found when you are accessing it, let's say that the key score. So now score is not present in this dictionary. So if I want to access the key score, it's going to throw an error saying key error, key not found. So now another method of getting from dictionary that is by using get method. So what I'm going to do is I can give find get of, sorry, dictionary dot get of, I say hobby. It gives me the value. So alternatively, you can use the get function followed by a key to get the value stored in the particular key. So the advantage of get function is if I want to access anything which is not present in the dictionary, any key which is not present in the dictionary, like the functions, like the keyword sport. If I do that, it says that none, but it doesn't throw any error to your function block. Now, how do we modify value in our dictionary? So I have a dictionary here, and I want to modify the name Sachin to Rakesh. So what you have to do is you have to pick the particular key and you have to change it to Rakesh. So let me print my dictionary here and also print here. So earlier the name was Sachin, and after I changed the name, it has modified the name to Rakesh. Similarly, if you want to add a new key and a value, so if you want to add a new key and a value, you can just follow the same procedure as you did for modifying the values. That is, you are defining a new key, let's say division equal to key. So this is the key and this is the value, and after that let me print dictionary. You'll see that the new key and a value got added to the dictionary. Now let's try to remove an element using pop method. So if I can use, I can use the mention. So print dictionary dot pop of marks. So the advantage is that so you have to define the key to delete the element. I mean to delete the value inside the pop, and it will also return what it has deleted. So let's say that tomorrow if you want to remove an element from a dictionary, but and also you want to keep it some places, what you can do is you can actually opt. Okay. Write it this way. And you see that what I have done is I wanted to remove the element. I wanted to remove the element. I mean key value pair of marks and the element and the score 92. So what I did is I use the popped element because at present I don't want this key value pair in my dictionary, but future I want to know what was the student's marks. So I use the pop keyword and store the deleted element in a different location, different variable, and I printed my dictionary. So you can see that there is no key value pair marks and 92 in this dictionary, but I have stored this in a popped element. Now if I want to now if I want to delete a particular key and a value pair, I can use the delete keyword, that is del key value dictionary of, let's say I want to remove marks. And after this I will key value dictionary. So you see that marks has been deleted. Now, if you want to remove the entire dictionary, we can use the clear function just like we use them in the set. So, what I can do is key value dot clear. After that, I'm going to print. So I have a empty set. Just like the issue what we encoded it in sets, we still see here we have the same issue in using clear function in dictionary also. It has deleted all the elements, all the key value pairs present inside the dictionary, but still the memory address or the basic ingredient of basic definition of the dictionary still exists inside here. So ultimately what you have to do is instead you can use the delete function, I mean the del function to delete the whole dictionary. So when you print it, comes an error says that key was not defined because it has totally deleted. It has deleted all the key value pairs. It has even deleted the memory address. I mean memory location. Now let us look into dictionary methods. That is, copy is a popular dictionary method which people use to copy a dictionary. So I have a key value pair here, and let's say that I want to copy it in a different method, different location. So equal to dictionary dot copy, and before that, what you will do is print and print the ID of key value dictionary and also my dictionary. So you see that the memory locations are different here. So it has copied and kept it in a different memory location. Now let us see one more method of defining the dictionary. Now this method is not in your syllabus, but I'm just going to show you in brief. We can use the function for from keys. For this, whenever if you want to define a dictionary with keys in sequence, so whenever you have a keys in sequence and you have values equal to none, you can use the form keys. So let's say that fruits fruits equal to dot form keys of, let's say, apple, banana, and these are my uh, keys in sequence, and everywhere I'll have the value 0. So let me print it. You have your dictionary. Now if you want to use the key and a value pair in your dictionary, you can use the item function. So I have a var dictionary here that is having a key and value in the numbers. So if I use the function dot, dot items, all this, it's going to show all the items in the dictionary with key and a value pair in terms of tuples. So it is given you a list of tuples indicating which are the keys, and the first element in a tuple is the key and the second element is in the value. Now if you want to see the keys in the dictionary, I have a dictionary of fruits where I have the keys apple, banana, grapes. Now if you want to see these keys, what I have to do is I have to print dot keys. So it will give me a list of all the keys inside this fruits dictionary. Similarly, if I want to see all the values, so what I can do is similar function I can use values. It gives me another list where all the values of all the keys are thrown out on the list. Now, if you want to get a list of all the attributes associated with the dictionary, and I need to understand what are the different parameters or methods of the dictionary. So I have an empty dictionary here. What I can do is I can use the dir function. So dir of view this. So here are all the methods and attributes related to the dictionary. Like you have contains, you have delete attribute, or you have your keys. You have all the functions like just now what we use, that is clear. You have copy, from keys, get, items, keys, pop, values, update values. So this throws all the attributes associated with the dictionary. That is all the functions, all the methods available in this dictionary. So alternatively, what you can do is you can go ahead and Google Python dictionary. If you Google Python dictionary and go to the official docs.python.org, so where you get all the methods you saw there. Matlab, you saw here. All the methods are explained here. So go through the methods and try to understand what these mean. So this is a great habit, or it's a great practice if you can start learning and start reading the documentation, because ultimately when you start working and go to corporate, this will be very helpful for you to understand very quickly what the function is all about. Something like an append function. So it is very clear to add an element to the element equivalent to how the function works. Everything they are clearly given. So make it a habit to go through all the go through the documentations and get the most out of it. Going ahead, if you want to use the comprehension in a dictionary, it is very similar to what we saw in list. So I have a dictionary here for fruits, and if I want to print it like for fruit in fruit pot, so I have to give fruit items in order to iterate the. So you see that earlier using the item function. Using item function, what we did was we got the output as a tuple. So in a similar way, it outputs me a tuple of key value. So this is the key, this is my value. So it gives me the output as a in terms of a tuple. Now, if you want to create a dictionary where you want to select the fruits which are even in number, so that is banana is 12, grapes is 10. You are interested only in extracting the fruits which are even in number. You don't want to apples because apple is having odd number. So what you do is you can use comprehension method, that is fruit dictionary equal to, let's say, k, that is key and value. So for key and value in fruits dot items, because you need to access them in terms of tuple and items. Now you have to define the condition, that is if the value page 2 equal to 0, because we only need the even values. Let me print it. So you have accessed only the elements which are having even value, even number values. Let us try something which is more complicated, like let us see the multiples. Like I'll just take the same. We're gonna type reader once again. That is, let's see that for every value, I mean every key. So I want to add the word royal. Okay, and I want to multiply the value by 12 times. That is only for the key value pair where the value is even. So what I can do is use the same key equal to bracket, that is k, but k will be with the k will come with the value royal, and v, that is value, will be multiplied 12 times for k in k comma v in fruits, the same dictionary dot. Always you need to get the inputs to the looping in tuples, and you define the condition if v percentage to equal to 0. Now I'm going to print it. So you can see here that earlier it was only banana, now I have banana royal and grapes royal, and the values, it has multiplied by 12, 12, 12 plus 144, and again grapes 12 times of 120. So you can try all these permutation combination in dictionary, and keep practicing to understand these concepts thoroughly. Now let us move on to the last part, that is strings. Now strings are nothing but a sequence of characters. Now string is broken down into individual elements. You get characters. It is a combination or a sequence of characters that makes up a string. Now the challenge with computer is it does not identify strings as it is. Computer can only deal with numbers, and that too binary numbers. So it cannot be. I mean, it could be 0 and 1. So string is manipulated into combination of 0 and 1. Internally, it converts your string into sequence of 0 and 1. The conversion characters, I mean, the conversion of characters to numbers is called as encoding. If you guys are interested to learn more about encoding, you can go through the documentation here. And in Python, you have Unicode encoder and as the string sequence, which is nothing but one of the encoding techniques. Let's just see if it is coding is. So to create a string, you should enclose character within single quotes or a double quotes. That is, equal to. So So either you can use the single quote to create the string, or you can use double quotes to create the string. Now, how do you access the characters in a string? Similar to list, string allows you for indexing. If you want to access individual characters, you can use indexing. But if you want to access sequence of characters, you can use slicing. So if I want to extract my first character, if I want to access the first character, and the idea is pretty simple. Let's say that I'll just copy this, and to print a string of, let's say I want to access the first character, that is B gets. And now if I want to do slicing, like if I want to access sequence of characters, what I can do is I can define the limits. Let's say I want to do 1 up to, so I get 0, that is 1, 2, 3, 3 elements. That is access the second element till 1 less than fourth index. And the string also allows you for negative indexing. If let's say if you want to access the elements from so let's say that you want to access the letter L, you can use the, so that is you get the output. If I try to access the element in the index which is out of range, let's say that 15, if I try to access any element which is out of range 15, it says that index out of range. So try to get more familiar with these errors, because when you understand more about these errors, you will lessly understand what is the issue with the code. It makes you less time consuming for any coding. So index should be always integer. Do not try to apply float to any index, so it will throw an error. So let's say that if you want to access any element, let's say I want to access 1.5 element in which it throws an error, that is indexes must be integer, not just for strings, it's for any other sequence. So I'm just going to take 2 minutes of break, and after that I'll explain you how to change or delete a string. Give me 2 minutes. Yes, I'm back. I wanted to have some water. So let us see how to change or delete string. That is, strings are immutable, so you cannot change an element in a string. Once it is assigned, you cannot simply reassign the. I mean, uh, you cannot assign. I mean, so once it is assigned, you cannot modify any of the elements. So you just have to reassign the whole string. So let me just show you. So just so let's say that I want to access, want to modify D to T, string of 0 equal to, let's say that I want to D to T. It throws an error that is string object cannot support item. So instead, what you have to do is throw the you have to define the new string. You have to define the new string with the same keyword. Now, if you want to see the ID, if you want to see the ID here, so understand if it has changed memory location after item assignment. You see that the memory location has also been changed because the whole string has been changed. Now, if I let's say that if I want to assign one more element, let's say that maxing one equal to I'm going to define the same element that is double, and I'll print the memory location this. So when you reassign the whole element, it's going to change the memory location because the previous one gets deleted. But when you assign a new element with the same, I mean, when you assign a new variable with the same element inside the new variable, it's going to pinpoint to the same address location. Now, how do you define a complete string? What you use the I have let's say that I use this string, and how do I delete this? We use the command delete. Deleting, let me print it for you. It was an error because it has been deleted. Now let us look into string operations. Now string operations has a lot of fancy operations that you use regularly. That is concatenation is one of them. Here we use that is addition, that is plus operator to concatenate two strings. You can also use asterisk sign to multiply your output. Let's say that I have two strings. That is my string was Python, my string two is programming. If I want to concatenate, that is string one, I use the plus operator, and I use the second string, I get Python programming. Similarly, if I want to repeat Python, like say, let's say like 5 times, so what I can do is print my string one. I use the asterisk symbol that is multiplied by 6 times. It gives me Python program. I mean Python 5 times. Now, if you're interested in counting any character in data, we have a count method that can count by going through each character one by one. It is a sequence of, it's a sequence of character. So let's say that count, char count equal to 0, and for character, let's say I'm going to use this. And if character is equal to, let's say, p, char count is equal to 1. Int. So char count. Sorry. So iterating through this thing, what I did was I iterated to each and every element, and whenever the particular element or particular character is equal to p, it's going to keep a count of the keep a count, and ultimately it's going to output how many p's are there in this Python programming. Coming to string membership test, if you want to if you remember the membership keyword in and not in, so I can use print yum in. Let's use the same string. So let's use true. Similarly, if you want to see not in, let's say C, use true. Now let us look for a few more commonly used string methods. These are very often used in your data science whenever you're working on strings. So the first one is very important one, that is to get your lower characters. Let's say that we did a program here, Python programming. Let's say if this is in small letter, so here we are comparing with capital letter. So the strings are case sensitive. It's going to say that capital letter P is only 1. So in similar way, what you can do is here you can use lower function to convert all the uppercase letters to lowercase. So you see here the P has been converted to lowercase. Let's say the words has been converted to lowercase. Similarly for uppercase, upper, so all the characters are converted to uppercase. Coming to split function. So split this line into a list split. So basically the split function will split whenever there are spaces, and outputs them into a list. Now, if you want to use the opposite of split, it is join. Now, if you want to use join different words using the space, you can say, let's say, I'm going to give a space here, dot join, and inside the list, and just copy paste this one, and it again gives back me the original string. Next we will see the find method. Instead of manually searching the elements in your data, what you can do is you can use the find method. So what I can do is I'll just use Python programming dot find, and what I want to find, let's say I want to find double M. It gives me the index location. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13th location you will find this mm. Now how do you replace a particular word? There is a function called as replace. So what I can do is my string1 equal to, let's give Python programming, and my string2 equal to string1 dot replace. So what I want to replace is I want to replace programming with program, and then I want to print string2. So using replace command, what you do is you replace one particular word with another particular word using this. So now let us try to do an exercise to see how to use different string methods. So one is to reverse a word. You have let's say I have original underscore word is Malayalam, and I want to reverse the word. So first what I'm going to do is reverse word equal to, I'm going to define an empty string, and then for character in original word. So reverse word r plus reverse word. So every time I iterate over this, so what it does is m gets added, then a gets added, then l gets added. So m will be pushed to the other side, and I'm going to print reverse word. So this is a case for a palindrome. If I have, let's say, if I have Python, it has printed in reverse. Now check if a word is palindrome or not. Once again, so let us use the same example. So I already have your original word here. So word what equal to whole dot to lowercase, because while checking for palindrome, whenever the word is Malayalam, let's say you start with the capital letter, so when you reverse it, so it's not going to match. So that's the reason we always go with lower and reverse underscore equal to both the lower code, and then we use if condition. So Python is basically case sensitive, and be very careful while working on strings. Draw else. Python is not parallel. Let's say that I have Malayalam here with M capital. So whenever reverse it, so it's going to compare this word with small letters, so it's going to be difficult. But since I would use this reverse keyboard, say that in same everywhere. String is palindrome. Let's say that I don't convert it. I mean, so I convert it to reverse word and directly check it. So what will happen is it says that it's not a palindrome because Python is case sensitive and you have to be very careful while working on reverse word. Palindrome. Okay. Now let us go on to the third exercise, that is sort sentences in reverse alphabetic order. So, my string equal to this is how reverse alphabets reverse string works. And now, what I'm going to do is first, before we sort the sentences, what we have to do is first we have to break down into list of words. Words equal to my string. Now we have inbuilt function called sort in words dot sort, and in this reverse equal to true. Now reverse equal to column, that is for word in plus equal to word. Ultimately, what to do is so before we print it, what you can do is you can create a word into sentence. So how do we do this? We use a join function. So what I can do is first reverse string plus equal to word. So instead of using join function, what I can do is I can just put a space here and then print reverse string. So before that, what I'm going to do is print my string. So this is how you get a reverse string. So when you see carefully, it may not cover actually. I mean how you actually explain. That is because of the encryption what we have in Python. Python follows ASCII encryption, as I said earlier. You will find the link somewhere. ASCII encoding. You can go ahead and look this documentation. What is ASCII and how to the sort function works in ASCII. So that is the reason why you don't get exactly the reverse string, exact reverse. So in Python, what it does is it is very case sensitive, and the sorting takes place based on the number, I mean the sentence cases. So try more permutation combination on these strings, these lists, the tuples, dictionary, what we learned today, and try to be very clear in the next class. What we're going to do is we'll start the node 6 and close with node 7, that is basically on pythons and something to do with how do you store a file, how do you open a file from a storage location. So that's it for now, and thank you so much for listening to this recorded session. So thank you and have a nice day.